Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to 1 year of separate collection of textile waste, which is an occasion to discuss together with you all the state of play of one of the most important material flow we deal with. So for us, it's very interesting to understand from you also all your experience and the challenges and thoughts about this issue. And I'm Federico Foschini, the President of Municipal Waste Europe. As you know, we represent the public responsibility for managing the municipal waste across Europe and working directly with the EU institutions and all the actors of the entire value chain. But first of all, let me please say a warm thank you to Luca Menesini, Committee of Region, for hosting us today. And, well, it's a pleasure to see so many different people interested in this topic. We, as I said, we are very putting a lot of efforts in this challenge, which is increasing. And we will do that by reasoning on this issue, or starting from separate collection, which is a first but necessary step in the management of this important waste flow. But of course, we also necessarily talk about the sorting, all the management chain and recycling, and all the aspects that influence the circularity of this material flow. So we will start the event with a keynote speech from Marieke Schouten, member of Committee of Region, co-chair of the Zero Pollution Stakeholder Platform, and alderwoman of the municipality of Nijmegen, Netherlands. We will connect our event with the conclusion of the Zero Pollution Stakeholder Platform event organized this very morning. And then we will continue with Luca Menesini, member of Committee of Region, rapporteur of the European Union Strategy for Textiles, Sustainable and Circular Textiles, and provincial councillor from Lucca, Toscana, Italy. We will present Committee of Region's position on the textile waste situation across Europe. And then we will end the keynote speech with Rasmus Nordqvist, Danish MEP representing the Greens and European Free Alliance, with a view on the upcoming Circular Economy Action Regulation, which is very important indeed, and the Green overview of the textile waste crisis we are currently facing. So thank you, all of you, for being here. And please, Marieke, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Foschino, for your introduction and kind words, and also for inviting me. It's really nice to be here. And when I was just waiting and just listening, I had to think of my father. And I have to, I'm nearly 63, so I grew up in quite a big family, and at home we were not allowed to throw away any piece of textile. Now, I can tell a lot about it, but that has always remained with me. One should not throw away textiles. Well, you could have a whole story on what then happened with the textiles, because, of course, they were in our home. But up till today, that's something which is still somewhere in me. So, it's rather terrible when you have reached the age of 63 and you're telling stories about such a long time ago. So it's kind of an admission. But I do count these kind of stories. It's quite a special day today because there's two major events. One of them is this event today, where you talk about the textiles. And this morning there was a meeting of the Zero Pollution Stakeholders Platform, which is a gathering of a variety of stakeholders, all involved in thinking about how can we really address the big issues on pollution in water, air and soil. There's a big program from the European Commission, and as a member of the Committee of the Regions, I had the honor to be a co-chair of the platform on the invite of the European Commission. A very fruitful cooperation on working on very complex issues. And I can recommend all of you, there is a really nice monitoring and outlook report and a lot of data on several aspects, one of them also textiles, this report. And it is digitally available. And I would like to quote something from the report of 25. It says the Outlook and Monitoring Report of 25. While textiles are estimated to be among the biggest contributors to PFAS pollution in Europe, there are no specific provisions to classify textile waste containing PFAS as hazardous. PFAS are intentionally used in finishing textile products to provide useful properties and can accumulate in humans and lead to adverse health effects. That's not a good message. I'm trying to set the scene a little bit here. So, textile use, consumption, production, we all know is highly globalized. And we are facing the negative effects of ultra-fast fashion on the environment, on socio-economic working, or all kinds of circumstances of workers, and we see a reduced potential of recycling. I think most of you are probably aware of that, or are working on it even. And most of the pressures and impacts related to the consumption of clothing in Europe occur in other places of the world. I think up till today that's still the case. So most of the municipalities across member states in the European Union have to deal with either a shortage or a surplus of textiles. And the shortage often has to do with poverty in all its forms, and the surplus has to do with how we use textiles and don't know how to recycle. And in the Committee of the Regions, we work together to foster sustainable practices across all sectors to address these challenges. And textiles is a major example of that, because we do really need to think about how we produce, how we recycle, how we collect, and all these different aspects. And the experience of local municipalities is really crucial to develop good practices. And the good news is we see so many good initiatives. I mean, even if I look around in my own province, there's so many initiatives to encourage reuse, to make people more aware on how they should use or can use. And that all helps to work towards a more circular economy. There's a second challenge, and that is one that comes with the working towards a circular economy, and I wonder whether you recognize that, or I came across a study done in Sweden which looked at certain side effects of the circular economy. And I am a great believer in circular economy, so don't take me wrong here. But it is sometimes good to think through how it actually works. In the circularity on textiles, we really should not only pay attention to the material flows and its impacts on consumers and the environment, which often has been the primary goal, but we also should really look into legal structures and financial flows of firms on circular markets. And all of us who deal with circularity and clothes know how difficult that is. So that's the second challenge which I would like to put on the table. A positive development is the EU Circular Economy Act, which is due for adoption later this year, which really has the aim to accelerate the transition into a more circular economy. So that's something to look forward to. And the Committee of the Regions has been actively engaged in addressing pollution, especially associated with the textile sector, as highlighted in the opinion on the strategy for sustainable circular economy and textiles, of which you are the author. And you will probably tell much more about it, so I won't do that, otherwise I'm misquoting you, which is always very dangerous. So, Mr. Menacini, we are looking forward to your contribution. Maybe a few words on the Zero Pollution Stakeholders Platform, which is co-chaired by the European Commission and the Committee of the Regions, because it is a really important means also in thinking through ways in how we can address all the different aspects of textiles in either the collection, in the production, and all the other aspects of it. So this morning we explored the midterm review of the Zero Pollution Action Plan, which highlights key targets for 2030. And one of these is the reduction of plastic litter at sea by 50% and a 30% decrease in microplastic emissions into our environment. That's rather ambitious. And we have also referred to the PFAs announcing a stakeholders dialogue, because the PFAS is a very big issue that we need to address together, very relevant to the textile industry. So all sectors, and textiles in particular, should work to reduce the environmental impact. And then do that in a way that allows companies and customers to match their needs while reducing the overall impact and increasing the circularity of the process. So as members of the Zero Pollution Stakeholders Platform and advocates for sustainable textiles, we really wish to work collaboratively towards integrating those environmental goals within regional strategies. So the challenges that we need to address, I already mentioned a few, but I would like to add a few as well. The first one I see is the implementation and practice of the extended producer's responsibility. The second one, I think, is how can we avoid greenwashing with all the different labels? And how can we work towards a label that is transparent, easily understood, and read by consumers all across the member states? And thirdly, consumers' behavior. And I know that's not an easy one, but I think it is something that we really should think about. And fourthly, I think we need to also develop circular practices, if I may say so, that also address the question, who is benefiting of the circular economy? And which legal structures and financial flows serve a just and social circular economy, especially social and just, very important. So I'm very much looking forward to the first part of the conference, because I won't be at the second part. But thank you again for giving me the opportunity. And again, nice to hear what others have to say.
Many thank you, Marieke. Very interesting thoughts and very wide perspective. It's necessary to approach in this holistic way. Now I pass the floor to Luca Menesini. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Foschini, dear Mr. Nosvik, and Marieke, ladies and gentlemen. So first of all, thank you very much to organize this meeting. It's very important 1 year after, and also is very important and is a big opportunity of cooperation between Committee of Region, European institutions and NGO that work on the ground. So some years ago I served as a rapporteur on the opinion of the Committee of the Regions for the EU strategy for sustainable and circular textile. I'm happy to present some of the main points of the opinion and discuss with you how our political demands of 4 years ago have helped changing the realities on the ground today. Particularly in Italy, in my town, as you mentioned, Capanno, in Tuscany, after 1 year of EU legislation on mandatory separate textile waste collection. On average, a European citizen produces more than 15 kilos of textile waste every year. Globally, every second, the equivalent of 1 full truck of textile is thrown away. So we know textile have a strong impact on our climate and our environment. According to the European Environment Agency, textile are the 4th most harmful sector for the environment in Europe, after food, housing and mobility. In 2020, textile caused the 3rd highest pressure on water and land use and the 5th highest level of greenhouse gas emission. This shows that the problem is not marginal, it is structural. Global textile production almost doubled between 2000 and 2015, and it is still growing. At the same time, clothes are used for a shorter and shorter time. This fast consumption model is the main driver of unsustainable practices. This is not only an environment failure. It is a political and economic challenge that requires clear rules, responsibility across the value chain, and a shift away from the fast fashion model. The European level is key to address this issue together with the national and local levels. In my opinion, we welcomed the EU's cross-cutting strategy for textile, fully aligned with the European Green Deal, Circular Economy Action Plan, and the European Industrial Strategy. We made clear what we expect. First, a strong roadmap for the green and digital transition of the textile ecosystem. Second, the urgency to make textile products in the EU market durable, recyclable, free from hazardous substances, and made with high share of recycled material. And third, respect for social rights and environment. So we were also clear that a paradigm shift in the fashion industry is necessary to put an end to overproduction and overconsumption. The core called for a move from an extractive linear production system to a regenerative circular model. To make this happen, we need political will and a stable regulatory framework at EU level, as well as support from the national level. Italy had anticipated the EU obligation for separate textile collection by adopting legislation in 2022. The challenge was, and is today of course, to increase the collection rate and the quality of the material to enable reuse and recycling. With the entry into force of the revised waste framework directive and with the extended producer's responsibility on the horizon, the transition could really begin. Support from Next Generation EU and around €150 million from the Italian National Recovery and Resilience Plan specifically for the textile cycle did make a real difference. For the transition to become a reality, it requires also local communities to play their part. Municipalities, social enterprise, collectors, civil societies, organizations need to be empowered to develop an effective collection, repair and reuse system. Regions must support municipality and the private sector as to drive research and innovation. In my hometown of Capannori, where I was mayor, we are well ahead on separate waste collection, and we have already begun door-to-door collection of textile, the first local authority in Italy. This gives us much better control over the kind of textile we collect and the quality of the materials. Soon, thanks to Next Generation funds, we will create a platform to select the textile collect for reuse, recycling, of disposal, and which will allow us with artificial intelligence to reach much higher levels of take-up. In Capannori, we are about to open a major plant with two separate sites, one for the sorting of textile, as I mentioned, and the other one for the recycling of nappies and sanitary materials, with an important public investment of €15 million in total. This will create new jobs and support other local businesses' development. So here there are deputy mayor of Capanori deputy mayor and president of the waste company if they want to take the floor during the debate. I think it's important. This is a clear example that a circular economy is part of Europe's competitiveness, not a burden on it. This also shows how the local and regional level are crucial to promote research, innovation and synergy across sectors. We must create and interconnect regional innovation cluster in circular textile. Social enterprise active in reuse are vital for local, sustainable and inclusive jobs to grow out of innovation. Let me mention also the extended producer responsibility schemes, which had already proven effective in improving waste management in other waste streams. As core, we urged the EU co-legislator to clarify which textile products should fall under EU-wide EPR system. We are happy that the revision, which came into force in October 2025, also included the mandatory EPR scheme for textile and footwear in all member states, with eco-modulate fees as the core had recommended. We are less happy that there is still no quantification of targets for textile waste. This is missing. Even if regulation would be perfect, it hardly is. Regulation alone would not be enough. We also need to change people's behavior, starting at the local level. This means working closely with associations, cooperative, local businesses, schools and kindergartens. The core called for concrete action to promote more conscious and sustainable use of textile, such as web schemes, fashion libraries and awareness campaigns. We must break the stigma around second-hand clothing and invest in innovative solutions to sort, reuse and recycle textile waste. Overall, the effectiveness of local system remains a challenge. If we want to encourage the circular transition, the total cost of collection, separation and recycling must be manageable. The Commission was expected to provide guidance for developing local waste management. So far, there is only information on certain technical aspects, but no concrete help from the EU level on how to organize successful and inclusive system on the ground. This makes it difficult, especially for smaller local authorities. And let me add that potential cuts to cohesion policy at the nationalization of structural funds are not likely to help. The other worrisome direction that Europe is taking in the simplification agenda, legal certainty and regulatory stability, as well as social and environmental standards, are crucial for Europe's competitiveness and well-being. So let's remain vigilant that the Green Deal and the circular transition, including the textile sector, remain the framework to transform challenges into opportunities and to foster sustainable innovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luca, for your complete overview and all the information provided. Now I pass the floor to...
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. I think it's great with this panel also is really to emphasize the need that in order to move on the circularity in the textile and fashion business, there is the need of the collaboration from both regional, local level, national level, European level, but also public-private collaboration in order to succeed with this. So thank you for the invitation. I mean, yes, it's 1 year since we started the separated collection, but also a year ago that we finalized actually the negotiations on the revision of the Waste Framework Directive. So it's a good time to take stock and look back and see are we going in the direction we hoped for. Are there actually positive impact already, or is the progress too slow? I started my career back in the 90s in the fashion industry. And over the years, I became more and more disillusioned by how little progress there was in a transformation, sustainable transformation of the industry. And that was actually my reason for going into politics, was to try and help this sector and this industry, which I really love and cherish, to be ready for the future. That is also why I was really happy last year when I became shadow rapporteur for the Greens on the revision of the Waste Framework Directive. And I would say that is one major addition from my perspective in that, and that is that it's the starting point is we're starting now to address the fast fashion, which has not been done in regulation before. Because we know it's the fast fashion like accelerating the textile crisis that we already know. We're drowning in it. With the revision, member states can now decide to do the eco-modulation not just on the product, but on the practice. So it's no longer just about how much, but actually how much do you put on the market. And that is up to the member states to use this opportunity, because we know the impact and we know the numbers. We've seen them over the years. Last year, report from the European Environmental Agency, it was basically just a continuance of this trend of too much textile put on the market. So which member state is actually going to be the first to incorporate the fast fashion practice into the EPR schemes? I think that should be the nice competition to see now. But also, I really hope that when we see a member state doing so, that we also see the Commission use the mandate we gave them with the legislation to actually harmonize the eco-modulation criteria. Because if we want to really improve these systems, we need to make sure that they are powerful and very effective tools, and that they actually also make an impact on the decision made by the producers. It's not enough just to pay the little fee, but you actually need to change. And there we need more harmonization, or even EU-wide EPR system that could help the producers. Single set of rules, single registration, only one guidebook for EPR fees. I would argue that it's about right now to also, first of all, gather experience from the member states and finding out what works, what doesn't work, and then use these lessons and the best practices to make it the EU, to make it into the EU level. And that is also what I hope we can capture this fall with the Circular Economy Act. It is actually that we look at this as a single market approach for the businesses. So it's also important that we look into some of the bigger issues. It's not just about the collection, it's not just about the EPRs, it's actually what's happening in the whole upstream in the value, in the textile value chain. And in a way, the biggest problem is the number of items being produced and being used a very few times. And the trend we're seeing, that people use the items less and less. We were talking just before about, we see so much production being made, but people don't even have time to use it. There's no time to consume it. And that's a real issue that we should address. And with this acceleration of production, it's also the quality goes down. And I know from recyclers, I know from second-hand stores, that the quality issue is a real question now, because the quality is too poor to even recycle. I think it's also about looking into more, of course, than this when we look at the Circular Economy Act, that we really look into how can we do the waste prevention and then, of course, have the good collection. It's about ensuring that it's including all the actors in the value chain as well. When we're looking into the R schemes and into the recycling, that we have everybody on board. It's about the EU-level criteria we want to do. But I also think there's some things that we need to discuss, which is not just about the collection of the textiles and the reuse, and that is some of the more geopolitical questions. I think we need to look into how can we actually use some of our trade measures when it comes to circular economy. And here I think specifically about the carbon border adjustment mechanism, because if we can expand the scope of the CBAM to chemicals and to plastics, that is when we can actually start to do something about virgin materials that are so cheap and make it possible for the producers to produce too cheap clothes that we consume very little and then throw out again. It's also to do with the geopolitical questions that we are doing all we can do to get rid of Russian oil and gas in our energy consumption, and then we buy all the plastic from China produced off Russian oil. I think it's also to look into, of course, all the parcels we're getting in, that we're making sure that it's not just coming in through the Chinese platforms that we talked about so many times. But what I also think we need to look into now is also that it's no longer a question about technologies. And I see a few faces I've been speaking to about this question before, because quite often when we talk about the circular economy, again and again we say we need to develop the right technologies into being able to actually recycle and reuse. We have them. They're all there. This is about scalability. And that's where we come back into also the European response to this, the internal market response to this. We need to scale and not just think about coming up with new technologies. And that's also why, I mean, I'm also shadowing both the MFF, I'm shadowing the coming Industrial Accelerator Act, and there I really want to look into, first of all, that we get the public funds going into the right levels, so we ensure that we have the good textile-to-textile recycling, we get the right collection, of course, as well. And we go out and work with the businesses already there. I mean, I've been visiting a number of small and medium-sized businesses in Europe. I mean, my home country, Denmark, Newry-Tex, brilliant young women who have started up and doing technologies using robots to sort the textile so it's ready for recycling. Next month I'm going to Italy, actually to your region, to look into how do you do the textile-to-textile recycling of wool in high quality that can actually be used. And it's those kind of companies that we have to look into and see how can we help them scale. Of course, it's not going to come just through public financing. I'm not going to promise you that it's the coming EU budgets that's going to solve this. We need to look into also how can we leverage with the private capital, private financing. How can we help up setting up matrix and screening criteria so banks and investment companies can actually easily see where it's good to put their money in when we have the circular projects. So there's a lot ahead of us. It's not just to do with the Waste Framework Directive or with the rules on collection. It's about Circular Economy Act. It's indeed about our budgets that we're negotiating at the time. And then it's the link between everything we're doing. Every time we talk industry policy right now, we did it last year with the Clean Industrial Deal. Now comes the Accelerator Act. It has to be linked with the circular economy, because it's a circular economy that is the answer for us when we look into the industrial development we need to see in Europe. But it's also about job creation, and it's about our competitiveness. We cannot compete with China or the States on their terms. We have to do it on our terms. And circular economy is about being independent. It's about creating jobs and opportunities for companies to compete on the world market. So a lot of work ahead of us, both from the local level, regional level, state level, and the EU level. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rasmus, for highlighting all the strategic level, all this important dossier. And also thank you to all again, because you highlighted a lot of different facets of the multifaceted issue. From, also mentioning the PFAS, which is something we don't even often think about, also other materials of concern, but as municipality we deal with this contamination problem also for water management and so on, and they are very nasty and tricky to deal with. And also, so very important also to understand all the things that can hamper recycling as well. So going back to the production model and how to really improve the production and consumption model across European Union and abroad. So thank you very much for all your insights. Yeah, we can pass to the second session. Yep. Directed by Martin Sibyl. Thank you.
We will now start the first session with the different speakers, titled State of Play, 1 Year of Textile Waste Separate Collection, moderated by Martin Sibyl. Please.
Thank you, Eric. So welcome everyone to this first thematic session of today's event. So we have heard already from the keynote speakers a lot of material that we will delve into in this first session on a very concrete way and from different perspectives. So we will focus really on the challenges on the ground of the implementation of the separate textile waste collection. This panel provides a wide range of perspectives with Mr. Foschini, who introduced himself already, President of the Municipal Waste Europe, organizing this event today. And we have then Marie-Jeanne Gärtner, who represents who reuse as lead environmental policy. We have then in our panel Anaïs de Bergijk. Yes, am I pronouncing that correctly? Okay. So Anaïs is an EU policy officer at the European Apparel and Textiles Confederation, Euratex, and we have then Maria Vera Duran, who is policy director in Recycling Europe. So we have on board representatives of municipalities, of recyclers, reuse operators and actors, social enterprises, and industries that are going to tell us more about their challenges, about the bottlenecks, but also about the road ahead, indeed, up to the upcoming Circular Economy Act and implementation of a extended producer responsibility scheme. So let's start with Mr. Foschini. I will ask each of us to introduce yourselves and briefly and just mention what was this 1 year. You know, what can you already tell us in about 3 minutes of the challenges experienced on the textile waste collection?
3 minutes, okay. Try to. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. Well, yeah, I already presented myself before, but I'm very happy to go a little bit more in detail about our challenge. Yeah, actually, it's 1 year we are facing this obligation, but actually, we have been asking for it for many years before. So if you look back, we have been working on having the mandatory collection of this important waste flow, but also we have been asking EPR schemes to be regulated and harmonized and implemented as soon as possible. And also been working, if we look back ahead, also on the development of the eco-design for sustainable product regulation, which is an important act that will help to change the production and consumption model of the textiles as well. So yeah, but if we look at the last 12 months, yeah, I can sum it up. We saw an increase of collection because, for instance, in some member states, we already anticipated the mandatory collection. In Italy, where I come from, was obligatory since January 2022. So it's the 4th year we are doing it obligatory because it has been done only for garments for many years before. But also in Denmark and Finland, if I recall well, from our members, already started in 2023. So we have quite a long experience in having to redesign all the system of municipal collection because this is a material flow which is a very delicate, let's say, we require special attention and special feature in the collection in order to avoid contamination, moisture, otherwise it really loses its possibility to be reused or recycled. So it's very important to dedicate specific, it's quite expensive as well as a way of collection, but it's necessary to do our best, of course, in this field. I don't know if I took all the 3 minutes.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Foschini. In encouraging statements about the fact that already municipalities had anticipated and are doing it. I shall now ask Mrs. Gärtner from the reuse perspective, and just to also introduce your organization. Thank you.
Okay, should work now. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak. So I'm representing Reuse, the EU largest network of social enterprises active in the circular economy. We currently have 34 members organizations represented across 22 different countries. In total, we represent 1,300 social enterprises who work with 25 different waste streams, and textile is one of them, actually the largest waste stream handled by our members. Our network is quite unique because it's both social and circular, so our members really put both reuse and human at the center of their activities. I was saying that textile is the largest waste stream for our members, that is both in terms of the volumes collected and reused. Our members manage to locally reuse over 20% of what they collect, which is way more than the EU average. And it's also the highest, the largest waste stream in terms of turnover. It represents a very important financial stream for our members. But as we started talking about, this waste stream and the second-hand sector for textiles is currently really endangered by the current crisis. So it means that not only the textile activities of our members are threatened, but also the other activities that they manage to finance through the textile collection and reuse, meaning their circular activities, for example, the reuse of electronics can be also embedded there, but also their social activities, such as helping people in situation of homelessness or other type of social activities. So you asked about the main challenge of last year. Clearly, it's this crisis. It's actually started even before last year, and it really became, I would say, last year it really became structural. We saw, especially in 2024, the first bankruptcy of private players who were the first signals of this crisis becoming more structural. But clearly, the first signals were there before, because fast fashion and overproduction are not new, but are just becoming more and more exponential. So these crises have different impact at different levels. First, economically, our members are losing money and are losing investment that they made throughout the years. Socially, there are a lot of jobs that are currently threatened, and especially jobs of people that are already at risk of social exclusion. And of course, obviously, environmentally, we now have to incinerate textiles that could be otherwise reused or recycled. And this crisis also is reinforced by the massive funding gap that we observe starting this year with the mandatory separate collection, which of course we also anticipated and were pushed for, but it arrived at a very bad time where separate collection was mandated without having a proper financing mechanism in place, no EPR schemes in most of the cases. So at the time when collectors actually have to separately collect textiles, many of the collectors were actually retrieving street containers to collect. So it's a really paradoxical situation we're in.
Indeed, thank you for this insight also into the social aspects of textiles, separate waste collection. Coming to Mrs. de Bergeyck, so yes, can you introduce Eurotext to us and also tell us about what this mandatory textile waste separate collection meant for industries on your side? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having me today. So I work at Eurotext, which is the European Apparel and Textile Confederation. So we represent around 200,000 companies, mostly SMEs. We're under 1.3 million workers in Europe. Sorry. Next to that, I also hold the secretariat of the Textile PRO Forum, which is a voluntary initiative launched in 2023, bringing together today around 30 PROs or candidate PROs across Europe, which aims to harmonize and share knowledge and best practices between the PROs. So, our members are, of course, fully committed to circularity, but 2025 has been a challenging year. Mainly because, as mentioned by Marie-Jeanne before as well, we see rising volumes of collected textiles, although the recycling capacity is limited. There are also unclear end-of-waste rules and fragmented national approaches. At the same time, companies are facing increasing compliance costs, lower demand for recycled fibers, and also unfair competition coming from non-EU sellers. So the result is pressure across, I think, the entire value chain, so from producers to recyclers to municipalities.
In 2026, we will lose, let's say, the industry, the one that we should be proud of, and the one that can contribute to achieve both the agenda of competitiveness but also sustainability.
Thank you very much for this. For this, I mean, these are quite important bottlenecks that you are mentioning. From your perspective, would Mrs. Vera Duran, would from the recycling sector's point of view. So you are telling us that the current collection volumes and textile quality, can you say? Are they compatible about existing recycling capacities?
Something that I always say is that if you want to improve the output of the material, you need to focus on the input. So that's why we always say that the recyclability and the quality of the materials we receive is very important to have high quality recycling materials. So this is something that of course is affecting because it's reducing the quality of it's increasing the operational cost, the sorting cost, and also reducing the quality of the output of the second-hand garments. So this is something that we need to match. And regarding this, let's say the sorting part and this, regarding the recycling part, what we need is to boost this demand for recycling materials. Otherwise, we will not be able to be competitive.
Indeed, and from now moving back towards me, Mrs. de Bergijk. So how has the textile industry? You were telling us how you've been experiencing this first year, but how do you see risks or opportunities to accelerate the circular design that Mrs. Vera Duran was?
So I think one of the key opportunities could be via the Circular Economy Act, only if it simplifies instead of adding more layers though. But yeah, I think if we can harmonize textile EPR, registration, reporting, at some point EU-wide eco-modulation criteria as well. Then another point also to jump on Maria Vera is to enable a genuine single market for secondary raw materials, including end-of-waste criteria. It would also be to align data and reporting systems, and here I'm also speaking about the digital product passport. It would also be to use the green public procurement. It hasn't been mentioned before, but strategically to create markets and demand for secondary raw materials. And then finally, last but not least, to avoid overlapping obligations, especially for SMEs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your perspectives, which are all very complementary. Asking now Marie-Jeanne Gertner from Reuse. So you represent social enterprises. So how could you develop on what you were explaining to us, how the social actors and the social economy actors have been impacted by the textile crisis? And thank you.
Yes, sure. So I think the explosion aspect describe it all, because we really noticed that all sorting facilities are really saturated, which is why I said that eventually some reusable or recyclable textile ended up being incinerated, because there was no storage capacities to first store the sorted textile already, so it was just accumulating and accumulating. Some of our members, I know that they had to hire more and more people, so adding on to the cost, like the rising cost that they were already facing, they had new operating costs by hiring new people, having longer shifts, and yeah, this is all due to the lack of reselling opportunities, be it for reused textiles or recycled materials. And this, as I said, crisis is enrooted in the overproduction, but also in many other geopolitical situations that we are facing now, and which we should all address. And maybe one very concrete example that I like to use to show how bad this crisis is. We even have members that are even storing textile in their private garden. We have a member storing actually 8 tons of textile in his garden. So that's showing how the lack of solutions that we have right now.
Indeed, yeah, that's a very concrete and very striking example. So, Mr. Foschini, coming back to the perspective of municipalities, so you had called for this mandatory separate waste collection. Some municipalities were ahead. I mean, they didn't wait for 2025, as you told us. But how is it going in practice overall in terms of cost, logistics, public expectations? Can you tell us a word about this?
Yeah, briefly, that is often reality has much more fantasy and. Yeah, it's not what we could expect because, along with the implementation of this collection, there was the urgent crisis of, and we have been flooded by this increasing ultra-fast fashion products. So we notice an increase in quantity, terrible decrease in quality, and this affects all the value chain, as we heard by the other participants. So, for instance, we have found difficulties in tendering. Sometimes we cooperate with social enterprises because there's no more way to sustain all the costs of this management. And also there are lack of sorting and storage facilities, as well as recycling facilities. Some of our members invested also in sorting and recycling plants, but really face challenging, if not impossible, landscape because the situation is very critical, and therefore we also want to try to get some future outlooks from the possible development of ESPR in order to improve the products coming up and try also to boost the demand of recycled material as output of the recycling chain in textile value chain, because otherwise it's really everything is clogged up and we are overwhelmed by this influx of low quality and non-recyclable material, which unfortunately must end up in the best of case in recycling of energy, recovery of energy in waste-to-energy plants.
Absolutely. So you've been all mentioning, and sorry, the mic again. We have all been, you have all been mentioning, and it was done in the keynote speech also of Mr. Nordqvist, the fast fashion. And the low quality of material. So that brings us to look at what an effective extended producer responsibility would be like. This will be put in place at the latest in 2028 under the revision of the Waste Framework Directive. So, Mr. Foschini, to start with you, if you had the opportunity to design the system yourself, so what do you think are the ingredients to make it effective and fair and workable? I know it's a difficult question. But
yeah, but it's very interesting if I were the designer. But first of all, we lobbied a lot in order for the Waste Framework Directive revision, in order to have some requirements, at least to the possibility to be, as municipalities, directly involved in the designing at national level of the EPR schemes, and not only occasionally consulted, because we can really provide, and we want to provide, with our experience, factual experience on the ground, and solution in designing the system and contributing to also the implementation of the system, which is a very complex value chain with all these characteristics. So we also had to learn from previous and past experiences across all the EPR we had for the packaging system, for the WE, in order to understand what happened and what does it really works, and we are quite experienced in that, and take all the best solution developed at national level and so on, because also every nation has its own features. But anyway, under a harmonized system across Europe. But let's not fall under the illusion that EPR will be the silver bullet which will solve everything. I mean, it will and it must help in financing all the lacking things, for instance, the proper waste management collection, the sorting, the recycling chain, but also it must have a good governance and a timely implementation, because also last year we lost almost 6 months before the publication of the Waste Framework Directive. I still don't know why, but time is really a crucial matter for us, as we are collecting, for social enterprises, for the recycling sector, for the industry. We all suffer the crisis, and so time is a very, very critical factor. And 2028 is too late. I mean, we have to do something way before.
Thank you. Yes. Time is of the essence, indeed, and a good governance. So, asking the same question to Mrs. Gärtner. So, from your perspective, what would be the essential ingredients?
So, of course, as EU network, we're not involved in the implementation phase, but we contributed largely to shape the Waste Framework Directive. And your question was about how it can be efficient, like EPR schemes can be efficient, and for us, efficient EPR schemes mean EPR that really drives the circular economy, starting with reuse. So how to achieve this? First of all, by prioritizing reuse in EPR funding. That means aligning the EPR fees with the with waste reduction principle, with the waste hierarchy, and putting in place mandatory reuse targets. The second recommendation that we have to achieve this is to support social economy actors, because as I said already and demonstrated with our network impact data, they really prioritize reuse. So to foster the reuse sector, we need to count on them and to support them, first of all, by giving them access to quality donation, quality goods, and also that they can remain the owners of what they collect, which is something that is mandated by the Waste Framework Directive. So a very important provision. But to go beyond, we also recommend setting, as it exists already in France, a social reuse fund with dedicated funding for the social economy sector. And it's very important to look into the collaboration with producer responsibility organization and municipalities, secure the contract, and ensure smooth collaboration between all the partners, which leads me to my third point. The governance of EPR scheme is very important. And we really recommend setting inclusive governance of producer responsibility organization, which is something that doesn't really exist currently. In most cases, governance of EPR scheme is exclusively managed by producer, which is not conducive to achieving the reuse targets, for example, or targets in general. So that's something we recommend member states to implement, because that's not mandated, unfortunately, by the Waste Framework Directive.
Thank you very much. Mrs. de Bergey.
Yeah. For Euratex, of course, EPR, if we could design something ideal, it would start with harmonization. So textile EPR must be EU-wide, at least in its core features, and not 27 different national experiments. Having previously worked also on the industry on EPR reporting, I had the pleasure of reporting already in a couple of different countries. So here harmonization is key to reduce the admin burden, at least on the company side. The key elements here, as I mentioned before, is one registration and reporting format. It could be also done via a digital one-stop shop. Another point that has been raised by the industry earlier this week is also on governance, but here is to ensure it's producer-driven, transparent governance. We've seen in other schemes in some countries that the state is actually collecting the EPR fees, and we see it as a danger for, I mean, the EPR fees needs to serve its purpose, and its purpose is to reinvest into circularity. Then we need harmonized science-based eco-modulation, and the implementing act that might come on the Waste Framework Directive. The time is yet to be decided, but we think it's very important to have it harmonized as soon as possible. We need, of course, clear enforcement for online platforms and distant sellers. And finally, we need legal certainty through EU end-of-waste criteria, so recycling can scale. Thank you.
If I can continue, I think that many of the topics have been already mentioned, but if I have to focus on some aspects that we think that the EPR schemes should be improved in this way, it will be the governance again. And this is because we have seen with all the waste streams that PROs, or producer responsibility organizations, are most of the times driven to reduce the costs of EPR fees rather than focusing on the environmental output. And this is, for us, is very important, and that's why we have been calling since a long time to be, as recyclers and the textiles reuse and recycling sector, to be included in the governing body, because we have also this expertise, and when we have, there's a lot of examples where recyclers are sitting on the table to make the decisions, and these EPR schemes or PROs work much better and are more efficient when setting the collection and also the achieving higher recycling rates. For the same purpose, from Recycling Europe, we have been always advocating for non-profit PROs. This is our minimum requirements that they are not established in the Waste Framework Directive, but we see an opportunity with the Circular Economy Act that is expected to be proposed in Q3 this year. And the last thing that was also mentioned already is the eco-modulation of EPR fees, because we have, for example, EPR schemes for packaging that have been in place for many years, but they have failed to drive eco-design. So we think that the eco-modulation of EPR fees can be a real incentive to drive eco-design, but also the incorporation of recycling materials. But this has to be like an important incentive. If you tell our producers that you will give €1 back per kilogram of circular material that they introduce in the production, maybe it's a real incentive. But if we talk only about 10 or 20 cents per kilogram, then maybe it will not make any change. So this is what we think, that it has a lot of potential to drive eco-design and the use of recycling materials. But of course, when eco-modulation of EPR fees are developed, they should be also developed in an harmonized way.
Thank you. And to stay with you, you were mentioning the opportunities of the Circular Economy Act. So coming to that, what I mean, this is only, the act is only going to be adopted just it should be adopted third quarter, so after summer this year. But what do you expect from it for textiles, and what, this is the second question, in the next 12 months would be the most urgent thing that should be done for textile waste management, in your opinion?
I would say there are many things that we would like to put in the Circular Economy Act, but as the Circular Economy Act has two objectives, one is the single market for waste and recycling materials. Here we think that the EU-wide end-of-waste criteria for textiles as well is essential, because the Joint Research Center started to work on this topic back in 2022. So now it's time, now that they have finalized their report for EU-wide end-of-waste criteria, it's time for the Commission to develop the legislative act and not wait any longer to proceed with the implementation of EU-wide end-of-waste criteria. But when we focus on the second objective of the Circular Economy Act, that is boosting the demand for recycling materials, here we have, I think, there is a set of tools that the Commission can put in place. For example, green public procurement, then the reduced VAT for second-hand textiles, but also for recycling materials, but also the recycling content targets, that we expect this, in this case of textiles, to be implemented with within the ESPR, but I think this can be the most effective tool to boost the use of recycled textiles, and especially with a focus on post-consumer textile waste. I think this would be, let's say, our main priorities or main wishes for the Circular Economy Act and the upcoming legislative proposals.
Thank you very much. How about you, Mrs. de Bergijk?
So our first priority is actually the same as for the European Recycling Platform now, is to have so fast EU guidance on end-of-waste criteria and byproducts to unblock recycling and investments. Then also interim eco-modulation, harmonized eco-modulation criteria to avoid diverging national schemes. And then finally, immediate enforcement, especially for online platforms and non-EU sellers. Thank you.
Yes.
I can take the question directly. Yeah. So for us, the main objective, point in the CEA is to really put waste reduction at the core of it. So it applies to all category of products, including textiles. To sum up, the recommendation there for textile could be to go beyond the new provision of the Waste Framework Directive, which already have done a lot of progress in terms of ensuring full cost coverage, for example, for textile collection, sorting, reuse, recycling. But to go further, we could do, as I already mentioned, align the funding with the waste hierarchy to ensure that the first layers, reuse and prevention, receive enough and more funding. We could earmark fees for the social economy. In general, the collection system, the EPR system, should be designed to really foster waste prevention and reuse, for example, by setting EU-wide binding reuse and preparing for reuse targets, but also by developing new financial and fiscal incentive, as it was already mentioned, such as zero VAT for repair and reuse products, but also repair bonuses. We have some example at the national level of such bonuses, and there could be a ground to make them EU-wide as well. And the third point that the CA should take into consideration is to support innovation by investment, not only in the recycling sector, but also in the reuse sector, especially now that we know the sector is really endangered, but it has still strong potential. We need to get those circular business model to work, and for this we need also investment. We need to look into forward-looking practices and to boost that market. But as always, the Circular Economy Act is not a standalone instrument, and there are still a lot of things to explore to boost the circularity of the textile sector, and the waste criteria I haven't mentioned, but also implementation of EPR schemes, the ESPR, so eco-design requirement, the delegated act, should also be ambitious. There is also the Public Procurement Act going on, so we should think all these different instruments together with the same perspective.
Thank you. Mr. Foschini, you have the last word here about what you expect from the Circular Economy Act. I mean, and also what you would see as the most urgent thing to do now. You were mentioning how time is important for the textile waste collection.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I can approve and I agree with all the different tools that have already been mentioned. I think they all play an important role. They have to be used in the right way, and as you say, timing is essential, because actually, regarding time, today we celebrate the first anniversary of, let's say, the mandatory separate collection, but also, if you look back, it's 10 years that the circular economy started to roll out at European level. It was back in December 2015 when the first, the package was published, and then the work, we have been doing this road for 10 years, so we have enough experience to understand what are the really important dossiers, how to adopt the best tools for the best material flow, and timing is essential, and also different instruments, also like CBAM and other measures, also reflecting on how another sector, which might have some similarities with textile, plastics, which is a galaxy of different materials, and also textile is very wide, as value chain complex. Yeah, we can try to learn from on the plastic regulations what is going on for the minimum recycled content and the current plastic recyclers crisis, how to adapt the different tools in order to improve as well the textile sector and value chain.
Thank you very much to all the speakers. That we can just conclude our discussion here now, but I would like to open the floor to questions, if you have any. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Chair. My name is Corina Murafa, and I'm a member of the European Economic and Social Committee, also dealing with circular economy as part of the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. I will talk in the next panel a little bit about it. I was fascinated by the sort of root problem that you've addressed, several of you, especially you, Mr. Foschini, namely that we're dealing with an increase in quantity and with a decrease in quality, which then creates, problems across the value chain. But I'm just wondering, isn't it the responsibility of European companies, if you think about it, because all the big brands that are sold, and I'm not going to name them, but we all know them, right? They are European brands, of course, producing elsewhere, but at the end of the day, the shareholders, the main stores, etc., they're here in Europe, they're ours. So it's not that we can blame for this element, for these two elements, the rest of the world, but it's ourselves to blame. So then I'm wondering, where's the solution here? Is it more sticks and carrots for these big European labels that are pushing fast fashion and decreasing quality? Is it education for consumers to buy less, but then, we would go for something like buy less from, I'm not going to name it, which is, European company. I don't know. What do you think? How we can break the cycle at the end of the day?
I can start. I think on top of the problem of the common fast fashion that we have all in Europe, now it's true that it's becoming more critical because we have the ultra fast fashion coming from online platforms from China. So this is what it has made a real impact on the quality of the materials, of the sorted textiles. So this is something that somehow I think there's some initiatives, for example, in France, but I think at European level there should be somehow measures to put a stop to this income of materials that, of course, nobody even checks when we talk also about chemicals or PFAS. There's no nobody knows if they complied even with the European regulations. So this is something that is unfair competition also for European the European sector. So this is on top of the fast fashion. I think now this is also racing, and there must be a way to overcome this challenge.
Ladies first.
Thank you. Thank you for this question. I think you highlight a very crucial point, and it's something that is very difficult to put a legislative frame on. We've been trying to push for several measures to regulate basically commercial practices. There is one let's say small hook that maybe could be used. It's through eco-modulation, where the Waste Framework Directive allows member states to use eco-modulation to, let's say, penalize ultra-fast fashion and fast fashion, basically via different requirements on collection volumes and frequency. But that's where the Commission needs to really be consistent, because these criteria will be developed through eco-design regulation, which also needs to be ambitious. And we can see that the Commission is not looking into putting business practices under eco-design requirement, which could eventually be also a way to do this, to address this. So yeah, I think you're very right that we have to face our own problem that we generate, but for this we need strong EU and ambitious EU regulation, looking at all different possibilities.
Yeah, I do agree, and let me take another perspective. We, European Union, represented something a little bit more than 5% of the global population. But anyway, we developed the most ambitious environmental legislation everywhere. But we also, so we have to be ambitious, proud of this, but not naive. So we have to, for instance, really implement, for instance, eco-design regulation in order to make it really working, and not just allow other players to find easy escapades and easy solution in order to bypass the strict regulation we are trying to promote. Maybe the Brussels effect will have its own effects, maybe in due time. Yeah, we have to be responsible, pragmatic, and quite fast in doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah, Anais, do you want to?
Yeah. If I may just add also on your point, Marijan, for the eco-modulations, because you can penalize ultra-fast fashion or fast fashion the way it's going to be defined, but you can also incentivize the companies and the European companies to produce better. There is the business case already in France, and I think eco-modulation here might be key also to incentivize the companies to produce more durable garments, because in the end it's less expensive. And then on that, as you mentioned before, market surveillance is very important for online sellers. It's not only EU companies. Thank you.
Thank you. We move on to the next question, please.
Thank you very much. Andreas Dorner, RIANUP. We are the largest, I represent here RIANUP and also T2T Alliance, the Textile Alliance, because I want to bring the topic, the recyclers here, the fiber recyclers, have also an important role. As RIANUP, we are the largest textile recycler in Europe with huge capacity. And we need to distinguish the two topics. I think the social enterprises are very important because the resellable fraction is the one also for Recycling Europe. This is the fraction which makes a business case. In the moment, this is also, we need to distinguish between resellable, repairable, and recyclable, because the recyclable fraction, for example, we take, or the members of the Textile to Textile Alliance, is the recyclable, and in the moment the prices are there where the transport costs are covered. And I think we need to distinguish these two waste streams. Reusable, recyclable, where, like Spain is very good, 30% of the reusable should go for social enterprises, because they have no other opportunity, but also, of course, professional companies. And the recycle fraction, instead of sending via Dubai to Atacama, to Ghana, and to all these waste streams, Pakistan should go for the recycling. And then business case come. And I think very, very important is in the ESPR to also recognize the recyclers. I mean, it's all good. The recycling companies have a very important role in this way of building a solution in Europe, because there's a huge demand on the recycle side. So in EPR and ESPR, very important, I think, and also you mentioned legislation, eco-design, if the products get better, and we have in the ESPR 15%, I don't know, minimum quota of recycled material, the ecosystem will run. Just my comment. Thank you.
Yes, maybe.
Well, yeah, I agree. And I think also it's very important when we could talk about the recycling content targets to distinguish also that these recycling materials must come mainly from recycled textiles produced in the EU, because at the end we are the one dealing with the waste. Otherwise, we will not close, let's say, the circle. So this is something that I will add to your comment.
Okay, next question, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much to the panelists for your very insightful discussions. I'm Isabelle Maurizzi. I represent the European Branded Clothing Association. So we have global brands. We represent among 75 global brands, headquarters in the EU and outside of the EU. I think they have two things in common. One is a track record on sustainability. That is also an enhanced commitment to the EU sustainability ambition, and the global approach, and ensuring that also we ensure that the manufacturers outside of the EU are also ready to meet the EU legislation. I can't help but agree with the problems of ensuring that everyone's compliant. We also face the same unfair competition coming from certain stakeholders that are flooding the market with products that not only are not environmentally sound, but non-compliant with the basic EU regulations, which has an impact on, the overall health, safety, but also environmental stream of the legislation. So I think the key issue here is to kind of find the right frame in order to ensure that the responsibility is no longer on the consumer, but back into the right operator. And one of the loopholes we face is the fact that the deemed importer / economic operator authorized representative has different legislation, and it happens in different legislation, but with different definition. And I'm just wondering whether out of the scope of the Circular Economy Act, but on the newly revision or the newly published Environmental Omnibus, where there are a mention of authorized representative, we could not try to have a joint approach here in order to ensure that we know that all market operators, no matter their size, no matter their origin, no matter their business model, are actually responsible for the product they place on the market. Then I can only but agree with the fact that eco-modulation is here to stream and to pull up design requirement to ensure that products are more environmentally sound. Thank you. And happy to discuss about EU liability.
Thank you for this comment. Would anybody want to react?
Thank you. My name is Christian Crépé. I was the Vice President of PRE, Plastic Recycling Europe, then Petcore Europe, and now I decided to go to Textile. Now we took care of the packaging PET bottles. So I have a question and some affirmations. And you see, the problem we have today is that we have a copy-paste of the packaging to textile, and they don't have much to do together. For example, eco-modulation, this is fine. We did the eco-modulation in 1993. Sorry, I'm 70 years old. I was there already. So, so we did, and in Brussels, and I had 2 recycling plants at the time. So, in 1993, so that for the directive in 1994, we had the guidelines, and the guidelines for PET existed, and it took us a lot of time to get the Cokes and the Dannons to respect that. But at least there were 5 or 6, were very easy to apply. But when you consider textile, it's not 5 brands, huh? It's much more. Recycled content, we had an overcapacity of 350,000 tons when myself and I asked for recycled content in 2017. We got it in 2018, very quickly. But I repeat, the recycling overcapacity of PET was 350,000 tons in Europe. So, and EPRs for textile will not be able to take care of everything. Again, the regulation is fine, but we have to know where we start from. And I don't have the feeling that we ask enough the recyclers how they see the situation or the industry. And back to the EPRs, do you imagine that they have to take care of which was very much possible for packaging, but for textile, of collection, sorting, for reuse or for recycling, preparation of the material for the depolymerization or mechanical recycling. All this amounts to 2,000, maybe up to 2,500 ton, euro a ton, where you get the virgin material at 800 ton, at euro a ton, sorry. So you see, how can we manage all that? There is much more that I would like to say, of course, but how can the legislator manage all that? It's impossible. I think, and there was an initiative done at one stage by, it was called for the Circular Plastic Association, CPA anyway, and we've managed to do a lot with that. For example, for the packaging for PET, we managed to get certification, to get standardization. Imagine we had guidelines, but we could not have standardization. And thanks to the CPA, or DJ Grow and DJM, we managed to do that. So, but all the stakeholders were around the table. It was very interesting and very important for also the Commission, because the Commission in 3 afternoons knew all the issues and all the problems in one go, or in 3 goes. But today they have to go and travel and see a recycling plant in Holland. They have to see recycling plant and everywhere. So my question is, thank you. I'll be quicker. Yeah, I can go on a bit. I mean, now this is the end. Do you not think that we should one day try to have such a platform, for example, for wool, for polycotton, for polyester, and get everybody around the table and very specialized, Circular Plastic Association, but very circularized. It's the only way we can manage something. So my question is, do you think it's possible? What we did for packaging, can you do it for textile?
Yes, Mr. Fusky.
Yeah, it would be, thank you for all the information. Yeah, it would be advisable, for sure. It's difficult to achieve, but yeah, given the current situation. And there are so many degrees of materials within the textile galaxy, which is very... It's not only at the European level, but the global level. So it's very, as I said, it's complex. We try to get some analogies with the plastic galaxy as well in order not to repeat the shortcomings, but it's not easy. But thanks for the...
Would any other speaker like to react?
Well, just to mention that the CPA, I don't think is the most successful example, but indeed it could be a good platform for joint forces across the value chain. At the end, we are here discussing because there's a market failure, because there's no economic business, or the economic business model is at stake. So that's where policy is supposed to help when there is a market failure.
Thank you. So I see there are no other questions, so we can conclude this session. I thank very much our speakers for their very concrete and indeed complementary insights, which were actually harmonized and consensual as well. And we shall now move on to the next session. Thank you. I'll give you your seat back.
Where do I go?
You'll have to now sit.
Yes.
From Romania. I have it. Thank you. Yes, yes. I received it. Yeah, yeah. It's all good. Yeah, don't worry.
Well, no, because I have to control a bit, so that's because there's also I have to connect it with the online people. Right next door. I'm sorry. I can give it a try. Oh, sorry.
Okay, maybe you can just let her know. Oh, we have the other ones online.
Aki, Christopher, you can. Yeah, Christopher. Hi, Christian. You can. Good. Showing the camera. Great. We'll start shortly, and then maybe we'll start first from the person from our Portuguese member, and then we'll give you the floor for doing the online presentations. So, thank you. Okay, we can start sitting back, and we'll finish with the last session for sharing the best case practices from between the 3 municipalities, well, 3 countries. So please, I give the floor to Corina.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us here as European Economic and Social Committee, dear colleagues from the Committee of the Regions. Just to really tell you briefly what our institution does and a little bit what our positioning is on circular economy. I'll do that right away, but before that, just a brief introduction of myself. I'm a member of the committee. I am also the Vice President of our Environment, Rural Development, Climate Action and Agriculture section. The committee is, just as the Committee of Regions, is an advisory institution at European Union level, and we comprise 3 different groups: civil society organizations, city hall, sorry, that's Committee of Regions, trade unions and employers. So basically organized civil society in all its shapes and shades at EU level, trying to, give opinions as we do, as Committee of Region does as well, on all pieces of European Union legislation. When it comes to the green transition, the committee has been advocating for a long time that the key success factor of the green transition is whether it is or not a just transition. When it comes to justice, you can look at women's rights, young people, but also workers, upskilling and reskilling, and all of these elements, which I think are an element to discuss, to be discussed also when it comes to the textile sector. We have been paying attention to circularity and circular economy, because we have underlined across all of our opinions the idea of a well-being economy within planetary boundaries. So I think our committee takes an approach that goes a lot towards the direction of minimizing waste production. So, of course, we are also discussing about enhancing recycling, reducing illegal waste sites, and all of these matters. And we do support something that was also a little bit discussed earlier, extended EPR, that follows the polluter pays principle in all sectors, and this fiber-to-fiber textile recycling. But, bearing in mind the justice element, we underline that the system should be also fair for micro-enterprises and small and medium-sized enterprises that are active in this sector. Of course, it's also the idea that all waste should be processed in the European Union, something that we stand for as a political body, that waste exports should be avoided to basically retain the valuable utilization of resources here in the Union. And that, of course, brings about the potential idea of innovation and new technologies and new practices and so on, which brought us to create, together with the Commission a couple of years ago, a platform called the Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform, which is really a stakeholder-driven platform focused on good practices. The acronym is very long and complicated. It's ECESP, so European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. It's really a stakeholder-driven network that advances circular economy practices, all these new technologies, innovations, etc., and harmonizes and amplifies the voices of stakeholders vis-à-vis circularity in the EU. And it's a platform that we have together with the Commission. We are at a new mandate right now. We have an annual conference, 22nd, 23rd of April this year, so do save the date. And we also have regular events where practitioners like yourselves, with a wealth of technical knowledge, exchange ideas and good practices online. The last circular talk that we had just last year was on textiles, and it brought together 700 stakeholders. So that was a huge event. We didn't really expect the success. But do take a look at our website. Please join the events. There are all sorts of governing bodies and so on where you can be present within this platform that the Commission keeps a keen eye on, I would say. So we do invite you to follow our work and also join us. So with this little bit of shameless self-promotion of the institution that I represent, we move on to today's session, which is an interesting one because it deals with important stakeholder in the whole discussion. We had earlier recycling companies and the industry bodies, but of course municipalities are an essential partner in the conversation. So the topic of the panel, the title of the panel is Municipalities in Action, Good Practices and Barriers. And I have with me three speakers, one present physically, two present online. I will briefly introduce each of them to you and then I will give them the floor and then of course continue with questions that I may have or that you may have. So physically with us in the room we have Mr. Felipe Carneiro from Portugal. He's representing LIPOR, which is an association of Portuguese municipalities. We were just exchanging a little bit earlier that they cover 1 million people. And the association that Mr. Carneiro represents manages, recovers and treats municipal waste in all of these municipalities. I also have with us online two other speakers from, other corners of Europe, which I think brings a very good perspective, because we have from Finland Mr. Aki Honkanen, who's representing LSJH, which is a waste management company co-owned by 18 Finnish municipalities, also organizing local waste management and education regarding waste and sustainability, serving about 450,000 people in the region of Turku. And we also have from Austria with us Mr. Christian Ehrengruber, the CEO of LAVU, a municipal service provider in charge of the collection of recyclable materials, serving the upper Austria region, about 1.4 million people. So these are the gentlemen that are handling close to 3 million people when it comes to waste collection and recycling at municipal level. Of course, the topic is good practices in textile waste recycling, and I'm sure that just as an introductory element, they can discuss with us, each of them, basically what they do, what their organizations are faced with, and success stories, hopefully, because in the previous panel we have heard a lot of challenges. So I'm interested, and I know that from the briefing that I have in front of me, I know that there are success stories to be shared from all of these three countries. So I will give first the floor to maybe I take online, offline, and then online again, or first in person. Okay. Complex, yes, technology. We're talking about recycling, and yeah, we can't handle. But anyhow, it's okay. So, Mr. Carneiro, Portugal. What are some success stories there when it comes to textile waste recycling?
First of all, thank you for the invitation. I don't know if I have good news. But I will show you what are we doing in Portugal, and I will hope that also help us all together to find solutions that what we need right now. As you see, like you told, Corina, thank you very much for the presentation. 8 municipalities, 1 million people. We are an organization that are supporting the north of Portugal, and we have 8 municipalities. We manage every year more than 500,000 tons of waste, urban waste, and we will also work with the urban waste, period. So what we get when we talk about textile, what we see that when we look to our characterization, we see that we have 25,000 tons of textile, post-consumer textile in our mixed waste. And that is for us 5 points to get the target, European target of recycling. So 5 percentage points that we cannot, of course, don't look to them. And what we see when we dip a little further, we see that in our regions we also have bins for reuse, and in reuse you collect a little more than 1,000 tons of textile. So what's our capture right now? 5%. That we wrote to reuse, 25,000 tons that go to mixed waste, to incineration, in our case also. So for us, this is a big impact for our municipalities, for our citizens, because we worked for them. What impact? Of course, they have the cost of energy recovery plant. Of course, after the law, you have the waste management fee that we have to pay, because for incineration or for landfill also. It's mandatory, the collection of the waste, another question. Also CO2 emissions. We know exactly that for us, 1 ton of textile emits 300 kilos of CO2 emissions. So it's very important. Textile, plastics, very important to reduce, because that means less emissions. And also, it's very difficult to achieve the target without the textile. And, of course, the loss of resource. When I started this work a few years ago, we started with a vision, and the first problem was very simple. What are in textile waste? Because we know that it's very complex, the literature tells us, but what is? The first problem. The other problem is, okay, we want to start to do the sorting, so what is the best technology, what we can do, what you can implement to be effective, to be efficient in this process. We have a great help, because and I want to say thank you to the European Union, because with the recovery and resilience plan, we have the money to go to and do this job. That was very important to us. About one project, a bit, that is a project in Portugal. I don't know, but Portugal, north of Portugal, is very strong in the production of textile, and so you get all together to make the textile circularity. It's a very important project for us. So physical characterizations. We made 4 characterizations, as you can see, and we do in the 4 times. And what we see, we do the characterization of the mixed waste. See the textile that was in there, and the second line is also the characterization of the textile that are in the bins for reuse. Okay, to have a clear image of what is happening. If characterization, we do what you see, 40 circuits, so in the end we are almost 200 characterization that we do in the mixed waste, and 18 in the to reuse. That gives us a very good image what you have in that textile. And what we see, textile in the bins of reuse. Okay, the numbers are good. Okay, what we see, 87% is clothing, and 9% is home textile, and you have another things. Okay, good numbers. The problem is that when we pass to the textile in mixed waste, the scenario is totally different. What we see in our characterizations, we see that only 50% is clothes. We see that 32% is home textile, and after we have also packaging and other kind of material. One little note in this point. When we start this, we don't know if the footwear is in textile or not. So we have another characterization for the footwear. But what do we see? For us, what is important? One thing is sorting of a sweat. The other thing is sorting of a blank. Different dimensions, new challenge. So is that very important? Also, when we see what the fibers is all about, what we see, unfortunately, almost only one third of material is natural basis, and 61 is synthetic fibers that we see in our material. Other question, deep, more information, what we see. Like we know, fiber to fiber, one of the main challenges is to remove the accessories. When we look to the material, what we see that, okay, 63% don't have any kind of accessories, but the rest, yes. And they can be metal, plastic, textile, also, in the end, multi-different kind of things. This is a challenge, because if you want to reuse fiber to fiber, we have to get all this in the process. So it's another challenge. The other question is the color. As you know, fiber to fiber, the color matter. blank is all, white is what we want, but when we see the characterization, we see that only 8% is white. The main color for us is blue, almost 20%. We have black, 12%. As you know, black is very difficult, so for some optical systems, it's a problem. And also we have 20%, 18, there are others, patterns, that is very difficult to work with that. So we start to have a clear image what is happening. In the end, another level of information, multi-camadas, so different layers. One thing in one layer, if they have layers of different kind of composition, we have to separate them. Another obstacle that we have to know. So with this information, we project, we need to have a textile sorting pilot unit, small, but to learn and to try to figure out how can we help to separate correctly the textile. So it's a very small line, but what we accomplish. The first problem that we mentioned before, is the question, what is the market want? What material, what are the constitutions, the materials that the market. And the market, I can tell in Portugal and in Spain, because, okay, we work very together, they don't know basically. The industry in Portugal in the north, in Spain, Mataró, for instance, in Galicia also very strong areas, but nowadays no one wants this kind of material. So when we ask what do we want and recycle, we have very few answers. Very few answers. So we look at what we see. Of course, the cotton is the best, and the cotton is some value. So we separate the cotton, and after we have the polyester, polyamide, the viscose. What we see that is important, the mixtures. There are mixtures, polyester, for instance, cotton, different kind of mixtures, and sometimes we have three substances in the same pieces. For instance, in the cotton, in our pencil, elastano. A big problem, a very challenged team because the elastano bring very problems in the recycling. More than 2% is a big problem, big problems. So what we do in our line is a systematic, very simple, and we have to separate for two composition and colors, because we know that the market, the industry is telling us that this is very, very important. I have to show you, I think that I can show you. A little bit our line that it works. This is kind of we are feeding the line. This putting, for instance, is very important for us. In usual plastic paper, the gravity is our help. The gravity do the work. In the clothes, no. We have to put piece by piece. And also, if you put the piece in a systematic, as you know, is a piece. Plastic, we can do 8-10 tons an hour. In the textile, no. It's challenge that happen. And after what happens, the material passes in the optical. The optical see the composition and color, and after tell us what in each box the material must go. It's very simple, not complex, this part. What we see for more common compositions, okay, but we are going to more natural and new fibers. It's very difficult, particularly the bio. You need new kind of articles that we have to develop. That we see that. So with this, what I can show, I want to share with you. We see the directive. You have very different kind of products in directive, in the textile directive. And for each one of them, we have to have a destination. Give to someone to do something new, circularity. When we looked at the next of the directive, what they tell us? Okay, clothing, okay, not problem. Blankets, for instance, rugs, bed lines, different materials, what you are going to do. For instance, the hats and the other head here, ears, and tell specifically of any material. You know this for industry is complicated, it's not. After we have curtains, the dimension, the colors of the treatment that they have. After we have waterproof shoes. And for shoes, for instance, in Portugal, in Spain, we have no solution. No solution. The solution is incineration. And when you go to shoes we know that sometimes they are plastic, leather, they're very also, and they have something that is even worse, that the clothes is the glue that mix the other parts. So sometimes that's also a contaminant of the products. So what I mean by this, we have very different, we sorting plastic, and you know that the plastic is very complex, but we have to realize that textile also is very, very complicated to separate for us. It's very, because the difference we can show, I can tell you our line, you saw 15 categories. For instance, one big company in Spain, Coleo, that is, they do 58 separations, and I believe that number is still a little bigger. Of course, for that, for each category, we must be a recycle that gets that and do something new. But, and when we talk about almost 60 categories, we are talking about logistic, space, money. So for us, one thing is to separate in 5, the other is in 60. And this being for us big challenge that we have to know to be efficient, because this is also money. Other thing that what we are learning, the stream is so complex that we have a manual pre-sorting in the beginning. We have to choose one place, big materials in another. We have to separate that. And for now, there are some technology, but mainly it's a manual process. Manual process, we need money. Sorry, I forget. In the first step, one of the main step in the first is to reuse. I agree, no problem. But reuse also demand have a person that piece by piece is seeing the things. And the directive is very clear. The sorting primary is for reuse. But that, for me, if you want my opinion, reuse the market. We need a market for reuse. And if the market for use is 10, we cannot have to reuse all the pieces. We have to have 10, you understand? Because reuse, as I know now, is a manual thing right now. We have to improve that, put technology, no doubt about that. But right now, piece by piece is impossible financially.
I'm not sure if you had some concluding points, but we can go back to the Portugal case later. I just want to make sure that we have enough time for the other speakers as well. Okay, I mean, I think that it's interesting that with all these challenges, if I look at the percentages, you're still well ahead of the EU average. So then, was it the technology that made you advance to that, or?
We try to collection is mandatory. Try to figure out how we can work this. Because for us, let me solve for the end of my presentation. For me, the problem is not now in Portugal and Spain, we don't have any demand for this kind of material. So what are you going to do? And for me, let me put the last one. This slide for me is very important. When we start, I want to start well. What I mean to that? If people separate their textile, their shoes, they expect that to give the material circularity. So if you get to the end and you don't have circularity and we put a very percentage of the material in landfill or in incineration, people will don't like. And for us, for me, we are not to be correct to the people. We have to trust. And because we need the trust of the people, separate by paper, glass, and so when we start, we have to start well. And that now, technically, we can arrange, because the collection is not a problem. The problem is the demand. There are no demand for the materials. That, for me, is the biggest problem. Sorry, my time is my time.
That was a very important piece of the puzzle, and thank you for bringing it up. We will probably get to that in the Q&A part. I do wish to invite now Mr. Aki Honkanen to talk with us, especially because Finland was actually a little bit ahead of the EU, as far as I know, when it came to introducing a nationwide mandatory separate collection of end-of-life textiles from households, 2 years ahead of the EU legal mandate. So how did that go? What are some positive experience that you can share with us? In general, your organization, how you're dealing with the topic? Thank you.
Okay, first of all, thank you for having me. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can very well see it.
Well, thanks also for the Libor for the presentation. Even it wasn't that positive, but it was more or less realistic at the moment. So we decided to start earlier than the rest of Europe. So I'm talking about our experience, and it's more or less experimental background, not the policy and regulations, but I'm going to talk about those as well a little bit. So a little about the company, history of textile waste collection in Finland, about our model, a little bit trend about the sales, learnings, and challenges. And like already presented, we are located in southwest Finland, and we are actually second or third biggest municipal waste management company in Finland. But the real reason I'm talking here is that we are not a typical waste management company, or actually we are a typical waste management company, but there are not many companies who has gotten the fashion awards. So we actually got the Finnish Fashion Awards on 2024 with clothing brands called Wayne and Latimer in the innovation and collaboration category. And on left last summer, actually, Rolf Ekrud, designer and cooperation partner of LSJH, was mentioned in Vogue, as he made a design of a textile waste collected, sorted by us. And this design collection was made part of a demonstration in EU project called Dixended, and it was presented in Copenhagen Fashion Week. So we have a little bit different background in textiles. Sorry about this picture. This is lots of details, but just concentrate on the map and the pictures. If we are starting on the left corner, upper corner, about the textile waste itself, on 2012 there was an idea called Topinpoisto study where it was trying to find valuable materials in mixed waste. And textile waste was pointed out as one of the potential material, and that really started the whole development work in Lounais-Suomen jätehuolto. There was about 5-year period with the several development projects with VTT and schools and universities and some companies as well. And on 2020, we decided to build a pilot line of mechanical fiber opening facility in Turku area. And that facility opened on 2021. And that time there were 10 municipal waste companies already started the collection of textiles in Finland. And we were coordinating the collection system at that time. 2022, there were already 21 municipal waste companies together with us collecting the materials. But unfortunately or luckily, on 2022, EU showed this strategy for textiles, and actually this EPR was starting point of decreasing the development collection in Finland. But what is a little bit different is that there was a Waste Act on the 2023, which started mandatory separate collection of end-of-life textiles in Finland. So that point, municipal waste management companies, they started the mandatory collection, but simultaneously they were prepared to decrease in their development because the EPR was coming. Anyhow, on 2024, we had 98% of Finnish population coverage in our coordinated collection system, which was a quite nice number, and it was working quite nicely. But on last year, that coverage was only 40% because municipal waste companies decided that this is too expensive. So they decided to make the actual mass of the collection, not the real development of circularity. And at the end of last year, we also decided that we are ending this coordination, and we are just focusing on future on our own area. And now we are actually waiting this EPR system coming in Finland. So how it has been working in Finland? So actually there are like 3 hubs in Finland. Those hubs are actually local waste management companies in their own area, and in left they are doing this valuable part of pre-sorting. So they are collecting the reusable material and waste material out of the mat, and then they are selling the rest of the material for us. And this blue round here is showing actually the material quality sorting. And Libor showed us the big Visa automatic sorting line. It could be done like that, but we are doing that all by manual. It's very time consuming. Well, it's a little bit better quality with the hands than automatic sorting, but it's expensive and slow. And still we are taking out the reuse and upcycling material waste to energy, and then trying to find the markets for each of the categories. Some trends of sales. Don't look at the actual numbers, look at the trends of sales. First, if we are concentrating on the light color, so there is a growing trend of second-hand clothing all the time. So sales is growing in second-hand, and with the circular textiles and services, it was growing trend until 2023, and then it started to decrease because some of the European countries still already started the EPR system, and there were lots of material available in Europe and no actual demand. So it was starting to decrease on 2024, and like Libor said, there are no actual demand for circular textiles at the moment. About learnings, communication to people, it's a key. Keep it simple and constant. For people, it's very hard to decide between reusable and end-of-life textiles. And for me, it's very sad to see what we have been doing in Waste Framework Directive as well. There are lots of shoes, hats, bags, bed linens, accessories. This is very complex, and it's very, very hard to separate on sorting as well. About the collection, there is always balance between the quality and the quantity. If you want to have a quality, you put the collection point indoors, and quantity is collected outdoors. Pre-sorting, Libor already mentioned about that. There are no shortcuts. Manual labor is essential in pre-sorting. Automatic material sorting cannot fix issues in pre-sorting. If they are moldy, moisture content material in automatic sorting, it cannot help anymore. Waste logistics, very important in Finland. Pre-sorting hubs are really needed. There are no use for transporting waste and reusable material all over Europe. Material sorting, like Libor already showed, material sorting is very valuable. There are no markets without quality sorting. And about this market demand and solutions, especially for synthetic materials, still lacking. So there are really mismatch between the supply and the feedstock demand at the moment. About the challenges, it has been a quite long road already with this change of Waste Framework Directive. Everyone has been waiting. There was really positive atmosphere on still 23, 24, but now it has been stable and decreasing. There is no actual development work in large scale in Finland. End of waste, this was already mentioned earlier. It's still in process. Actually, the circular textiles, they should be transported in EU as green waste, but every country has different rules and logistic companies needs to be approved between every country. I don't know why. And I have an understanding that the end of waste status doesn't stop sorting is not the point for end of waste status. So it means that we are sorting and still it is waste. So the green waste rules should be standardized between EU countries. Cost of collection and sorting in Waste Framework Directive, the cost of EPR system has been pointed out as for example, 12 euro cents per T-shirt, which sounds rather optimistic from Northern Europe point of view, because the density of population is very low in Scandinavia. Distances are long, and the potential markets are in Central or Southern Europe. This can work in Paris area where there are 5 million people, like in whole Finland, but it doesn't fit in Finland. And the market demand. So we really need actual obligation or incentives in order to establish markets for circular textiles. Like already said, customers won't pay extra for circular materials. So that's why we need obligation or incentives for the producers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Honkanen. It's been really illuminating to notice also some of the similarities to what the previous speaker was saying about the main obstacle being lack of demand for recycled textiles. And I think it's an interesting story. I also saw Mr. Carneiro nodding about this idea of having common green waste rules at the EU level. He also seemed to share your perspective there. So I move on to the last speaker, Mr. Christian Ehrengruber from Austria, to share with us a couple of insights from the use case in Austria. If you could make sure that you do not exceed 10 minutes, maybe even a little bit less, so we can have time for some Q&A. It would be really wonderful, Mr. Ehrengruber. Thank you. And what a nice picture that you're showing us on the first slide.
We cannot hear you, Christian. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you very much for the really interesting contribution in the previous sessions. I will tell you something about our system of textile collection, which we do already since a lot of years. And first, I will give you a short information about our background, and I try to be very fast. Okay. I'm coming from the province of Upper Austria. It's one of the 9 federal provinces in Austria. We are in the northwestern part. Our neighbors are in the north, Czech Republic, and in the west is Germany, Bavaria. We have about 1.5 million inhabitants. It's about 70% of Austria. We have a lot of small municipalities, 438, which are organized in 15 districts, and we have 3 statutory cities, and the capital of the province is Linz at the Danube. About Lavo. Lavo is 100% municipal company, which is owned by the waste district associations, by the 15 district associations, and behind there are the 438 municipalities. And our scopes of business are different services for recycling centers. We are specialized for recycling centers. We offer service for the planning, construction, management, facility management of the hardware. We offer services concerning the operations management, also concerning the staff management. We have more than 800 employees, 780 are working in the recycling centers, and the 160 recycling centers we operate, and we offer different services for waste management, for the collection of about 100 different type of waste fractions, mainly for recycling, and different services concerning logistics, treatment, recycling, and marketing. Some figures about the system of the recycling centers in Upper Austria. They are in the whole province organized in the same way, province-wide uniform. We started already in the early 90s with these recycling centers, and in the last 10-15 years, we did a lot of investment concerning the modern infrastructure. Yeah, some examples of our different fractions. We collect about 14 different fractions for reuse, and clothes and shoes are one of them. Yeah, all in all, a little bit, last year we collected a little bit less than 300,000 tons. This is about a little bit less than 40% of the total municipal waste in Upper Austria. Now to the collection of used textiles and used shoes. First, a separated collection of used clothes for reuse. Lavo started with this collection already at the late 80s and early 90s. At the beginning, the main collection system was the so-called street collection, but in the 90s we started also with the collection in the recycling centers. We offer specific collection bags for the customers for free to collect the used clothes for reuse already at home. On the bags we have the information what is good for reuse and what's not okay. So this information is very important to get a good quality at the beginning, and we try to avoid any kind of waste in the bags. Last year we collected about 3,000 tons, this is about 2 kilograms per capita, and the quality is very good. It's a so-called pre-sorted quality. We control the bags, the bags and the clothes are controlled by our staff at the recycling centers, so we can reach a very high quota for reuse. More than 90% of this collection is really for reuse, and just 10% is for recycling at the moment, mainly for cleaning racks, and there's no waste in it. You see on the pictures the inside of a recycling center, and on the right side you see the collection points for the shoes and the collection points for the clothes. We also have a separated collection for used shoes for reuse. We do this also already since more than 30 years. Last year we collected about 170 tons. There's about 500,000 pairs of shoes for reuse. It's also pre-sorted quality and 100% for reuse. It's important to have the shoes bundled in pairs, and yeah, here you see the sack stand where we put in the shoes, and then this is the container for the collection of the shoes. We already have had a separated collection for used textiles for recycling. In this way, for thermic recycling, we did this 10, 15 years ago, but we stopped it in 2016 because of economic reasons, because it was more expensive than the collection together with the residual waste. But it was also a good quality for specific thermic recycling in a fluidized bed furnace in Lenzing, which is a large company, it's a cellulose producer and fiber producer, and this company is also involved in fiber recycling at the moment. We also, it's not direct a part of the textiles in the EU directive, but it's also mentioned the mattresses. We had already a collection in the 90s for recycling. We collected soft foam from the mattresses, and this was recycled by a company in Upper Austria, by Greiner, which is also active in the international market. It's a large foam producer, and they produced low barrier panels and head racks for cars. But that was also finished because of economic reasons. And last year we started with a pilot collection of mattresses for recycling. In the pictures you see some examples of our collection. Actually, there's already a recycling plant which started at the end of last year in Lower Austria. Yeah, as we have heard before, logistics is also important to close the loop. We have developed a specific logistics system for all waste fractions. We operate one central logistics center in the middle of Upper Austria and Wales. It's also our headquarters, and this is our main warehouse storage. But we also do some treatment there for electronic waste and used cooking oil. And we have a general cargo logistic for more than 90 waste fractions, analogous to that used by trading companies, and it's not usual in the waste management logistics system. The pictures you see, this is one trailer which comes from one recycling center, and with this system we transport 30-40 fraction in one transport. In the logistics center, it's weighed, it's controlled, we make quality control, and then we ship the materials to our different recycling partners. All in all, we have about 120 different recycling partners, mainly in Austria, but also in other countries in Europe. Here you see the storage of the used clothes and storage of shoes, and also the loading for the onward transport. All the transport, internal logistic is done by forklifters. Yeah, and finally, I show you some current projects, so-called cooperative circular economy projects concerning textiles. One is called Enzatex. It's dealing with an enzymatic technology to separate different fibers. And the second one is called Scamsort, and it deals with the improvement of quality, collection and reuse of textiles, both in quantity and quality. And in these projects, the more than 10 different partners, scientific and industrial partners along the value chain of textiles. Well, I hope it give you a short impression about the system we are operating concerning textiles and shoes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ehrengruber. I also appreciated some of the pictures that you showed, which emphasized, I think, the same aspect as the previous speaker, namely the really easy to understand communication with the citizens, what they need to do and how. And I saw some posters there. We have about 5 to maximum 10 minutes of questions. I also have a couple, but I'm sure that since you're so embedded in the topic, you also have some. I already noticed a hand up there. If it's for one of the specific speakers, please address it. If not, it's a general one, then each of them would be.
This is Andreas Dorner. Renap Technologies, as I said, the biggest recycling in Europe. And this is a question to Christian Ehrengruber. As Christian, I was the thought leader of this Lenzing Refiber, where you did all the recycling. I was in Lenzing leading the whole recycling technology. And my question is, I think Christian was very clear, and also with Greiner. I think what we hear from you, it's very significant that the municipality recyclers are flexible. I think that's evident if it's Finland or Austria. But very, very important is if there's an economic system behind, like in Lenzing. The fiber was produced because in Lenzing we developed the Refibra fiber, which was using textile waste. So this was the first. I developed this 2012 to 2017. And I want just to emphasize again, I think we need to think in Europe on niche markets like mattress sticking, fibers, other alternatives, what he just said with Arema. I think Europe is the place now to have green jobs with new technologies, but creating pull demand, fibers, technologies, materials. I think this is evident that we have different regions with different knowledge, like Italy, Spain. The one is wool, the one is linen. And I think we need to look always again, this was I emphasized before, on the pull demand. So there's a product we can bring back to the market. And then I think municipality leaders would be very, very interesting to be part of that. And then we create this, before we do eco-modulation and EPR, because it takes too much time, we need now to emphasize the SMEs to be very, very active. Portugal the same, with the whole textile industry, to really get a product to the market that the regional communities have a raw material which gives them an economic benefit to be competitive in the market.
Thank you very much. Let me collect maybe one or two more, and then give the floor to the speakers to wrap up by taking the questions. Are there any other ones? Please.
Yes, I'll just come back to what I said earlier on. The EU circularity platform is a very good idea. But when you speak about a pull demand, for example, it's a very, very good idea, because what you need to do is to coordinate and synchronize whatever is happening in Europe. And it is not by acting just locally that this will ever happen. And I am not sure that, for example, I was the first one on the EU circularity platform, by the way, but I can see that everybody's in it, but it's not enough. We need to know what's going on. And the only way to know what's going on is to get everybody on the table in this part of the world. Otherwise, it won't work. Somebody said CPA didn't work. It worked fantastically well for packaging, believe me. But of course, if you were in the airport, if you were in the carpet industry, or if you were in the airplanes, it wouldn't work. You know, because everybody was on the table. But if we manage to specialize what we want to recycle, then we'll manage something. We will be able to synchronize and coordinate something. Otherwise, locally, it will never work, because people don't have the means and the money to do it. Even big EPRs like refashion or things like that, it just will not work. A lot of experience from packaging, believe me. Because
Thank you very much. Any other question? Or yeah, so I'll head to each of the speakers in the order that they started. Let's take this perspective on whether you believe that pool demand is something that's very important, and what role do you see for yourselves as a municipal company in creating somehow this pool demand, if any, because you might say, you know, that is not our business, somebody else needs to do it. The gentleman's question over there around having actually more EU-wide actors dealing with the topic, especially the whole value chain, because it cannot be handled at local level. And the question that I had was really general, which was around what do you wish, you know, if you had Santa Claus's list in front of you, what do you wish from EU legislation and in the next year, not 20 years from now? What do you wish to have changed in order to improve what you're doing? I go to Felipe first, and then to the other speakers.
EPR it will not resolve our problem. EPR is for collection, EPR is for, like I told before, to sorting, and you have various challenges in that area, but not to resolve the problem of demand. So how can you resolve demand? Okay, I'm not the world of, I'm a waste guy, so for me, what we must do, we have to increase, like I told you before, to increase a framework that starts to include mandatory to incorporate fiber recyclables in the new products. For that, we start to do the machine will start to work, because we know cotton is possible, but sometimes, like you told, it's an economic situation. The polyester is more cheap than it was 10 years ago. The cotton also is a very low price. So for us, for companies, it's very difficult to do a massive change, because it's to change everything that they have, the logistic, the productions, to start to put recyclable. They are under the market, like I told, people don't buy. You see the various inputs in Europe, because we have to realize, for me, ultra fashion, we're talking in Antwerp by now, very important, but for me, price is as a customer, It's a question. So we must be competitive with this kind of products. If we don't have competitiveness, we will not have any market. So we have to work with that. Eco-modulation is super important, everything. But if we don't want to start to do the machines to work, for me, we have to create some kind of demand. If not, it's like I told you, the colleague told before, nowadays, if we start to collect, what we do to the material? Obligation mandatory.
I would say yes, mandatory obligation, but that, making sure that the whole economic mechanism works, because if the end product is 3 times more expensive than the alternative, people are somehow going to still buy from Shein and Temu. The next speaker, Mr. Honkanen, what's your take on these demand-driven questions that the audience has asked? And your wish list for the EU, one wish that you want to perhaps send over to EU institutions?
Yeah, I have a big support of pull demand, but I don't know really what to do with that, since we have really tried to target the producers in Finland, and they are not really interested of discussing with us, because they don't know the actual time schedule for the EPR system in Finland, but when it really starts, and what are the roles of roles of different parties in this EPR. So that's one of the issue. But from my point of view, in the change of waste framework directive, the focus has been on collection and sorting. And I think the main focus should be in real recycling rate targets and how the market demand and is made for recycled textile market materials, like for this pull demand. So in a first phase, there was already mentioned that the people are claiming that this is a technology issue. I agree that this is not a technology issue. This is more an economical issue. So if there will be markets for recycled textiles materials, there will be a solution for collection and sorting when it's economically viable. So for my wish list for the Santa Claus, I would say that we really need incentives and obligations for textile producers to utilize recycled textiles materials. So they really need obligation and incentives, and that starts really recycling of textiles materials. It doesn't have to be 50% in each garments, but 1 to 5% in each garment's recycled material. It starts the markets. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Honkanen. We also have Mr. Ehrengruber with us to reflect on the questions he has heard.
Yeah, well, I'm not an expert on EU legislation. My first wish is to get a proper EPR system on national level, which takes also into account the interest of the municipalities. This is my main and first wish. And I think to get a full demand for recycled fibers, one way could be to fix a recycling quota for new clothes, which are put on the European market, and recycled fibers which come from from clothes, used clothes, which are collected in Europe and recycled in Europe. I think this could help, but I don't know really the solution to give a big full demand. This is maybe recycling quota could help.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all the speakers for sharing their insights into this and good practices, but also challenges. Thank you for taking part in this conversation, and I think now there will be a very short end of the conference speech. So yeah, closing remarks, yes, please.